Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to see all of you here in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum. It's year 10 of the war, and today is day 566 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And today we have invited you to a very interesting meeting. We will talk about the results of the co-pilot project and international neurosurgical collaboration in Ukraine. So our American colleagues, the neurosurgeons, came to a number of cities in Ukraine from 4th to 13th of September. They will oversee an extra difficult and complex surgeries to cure the brain diseases in Ukraine. So let's talk about this mission, what is the content and what was going on. I want to introduce our speakers. Today joining us in the studio are Olena Teryaeva, medical expert, project manager of the Razum Health Program at the Razum for Ukraine Charitable Foundation. Also joining us is Maxim Shapiro, neurosurgeon from the USA. Tim Nelson, a neurosurgeon with expertise in endovascular surgery from the United States. Dnipro, neurosurgeon, interventional neuroradiologist, professor, honored doctor of Ukraine. Mikhailo Kostyuk, a neurosurgeon with expertise in vascular surgery, PhD. Thank you for joining us here. I understand that you have a very tight schedule, so thank you very much for finding time to take part in our event. Miss Olena, let's give the floor to you. Tell us about the project. What's its mission? What cities of Ukraine are included in the projects, and what are the results? Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for invitation. The Charitable Foundation Razum for Ukraine organizes medical missions of the doctors from Canada and the United States. We organize and accompany those missions. We support the missions of Dr. Ken Nelson and Dr. Maxim Shapiro to Ukraine, our honorable neurosurgeons, and Charitable Foundation Razum for Ukraine was established in 2012 in the United States by American volunteers of Ukrainian origin to build the successful Ukraine and reinforce the voice of Ukraine in the United States. Physically, the Charitable Foundation Razum for Ukraine started working in Ukraine back in 2014. And starting from the 24th of February last year, when the full-scale invasion of Ukraine has begun, we focused all of our efforts on operative response, and we do everything we can do to bring the Ukrainians' victory closer. We help the medics, both civilian and military. We help the civil organizations, the civil and military hospitals, and people directly from hand to hand. During this period of armed aggression of Russia against Ukraine, we collected donations in amount of around $100 million for Ukraine. We have 5 areas of work, including one of big area which is of highest importance is Razum Health, a medical area of our work. We work with a number of international partners, including local Ukrainian partners, and we implement many different projects. First, we hand over the medical equipment and powerful generators for the civil hospitals. We send medical equipment, hygienic products, and medicines for the patients of the hospitals. We train and provide stipends for medical teams during the special medical training course in management, so-called mini MBA. We procure filtration stations for the medical institutions of Kherson region. We buy portable ultrasonic devices for military medics, and we train them how to work with them. The mobile ambulances work in Donetsk and Kharkiv regions. that were provided by us to provide medical support to the citizens in the deoccupied territories. Also, as a part of our medical area is also co-pilot project. And thanks to this project, we are able to invite the leading American and Canadian surgeons to Ukraine, who specialize in ultra-complex reconstructive orthopedic surgeries. They provide advice to Ukrainian patients, and they exchange experience, they train them, they exchange experience with the Ukrainian colleagues, and within the 5 years of the full-scale invasion, co-pilot brought 5 medical missions to Ukraine. The doctors fulfilled 145 complex surgeries, and they were supporting the Ukrainian colleagues during the after-surgery periods. It's our pleasure, and it's a pleasure to support the medical missions with the educational missions. We establish workshops, master classes, and training courses, and right now there is a master class going on in the University Clinic of Bokomolets Medical University of yet another medical mission by Drs. Ken Green and Alex Razumovsky, neurophysiologists, that brought a transcranial Doppler machine, and they trained the Ukrainian specialists to work on that type of equipment. It was donated to Ukrainian medics. During the period of operation of co-pilot project, we brought more than 100 professional doctors and medics from United States and Canada to Ukraine, who performed 245 surgeries, and more than 120 Ukrainian surgeons joined this mission. Our mission works in more than 20 partner clinics in Ukraine, Lviv, Dnipro, Ivano-Frankivsk, Uzhhorod, and now we're looking for more partners. Among the clinics, we organize training for Ukrainian doctors in the leading American hospitals. It would be impossible shouldn't the American team of Razom co-pilot work so intensely without such people as Ola Shaba and Yana Kabyuk, who support this project and who cooperate with the leading American universities, professional associations such as American Association of Reconstructive Plastic Surgery of the Face, Institute of Epilepsy in New Jersey, and other organizations. Those are the organizations who help find such motivated doctors who are motivated to come and help the doctors in Ukraine, who can allocate time and who have enough courage and empathy to come to Ukraine and to support Ukrainian specialists. The Foundation Razom for Ukraine supports this mission. We are in charge of logistics. We are in charge of billeting, search for partner clinics. We procure medical equipment and products for the surgeries. So we do everything to make sure that the Ukrainian doctors, through international partnership, are properly supported. But our project is not only about the professional support, it's about the empathy, about the emotional support, mental support of the Ukrainian doctors and all the medical communities provided by the American and Canadian doctors and American and Canadian medical community, while now the civil and military doctors in Ukraine are loaded with work a lot. So we will continue bringing medical missions to Ukraine. Miss Elena, I will have a question to our international partners, our specialists. It's no secret to anybody that with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the number of injured Ukrainians, those injured by the war, started growing exponentially, and we're facing the fact that we have a lot of civilians also injured just like the military. So what have you seen here? What were the clinics that you were able to visit, and what were the surgeries that you worked with? Mr. Ken, I would like to ask you.
Well, I firstly would like to thank everyone that made this visit on behalf of Dr. Shapiro and me, that made this visit possible, Razom, and also our hospital that allowed us the time to come and share this. I've known the group here in Kyiv, Victor and Michaela, for a number of years, so it's not unknown that there was interventional endovascular neurosurgery in the Ukraine. But I was pleased to be able and honored to be able to visit several centers in Dnipro and work physicians there. I met colleagues in Zaporizhia and as well as in Lviv. And what I've learned is that there is extreme amount of talent and innovation that happens here in Ukraine. So there's a promising future. Beyond the physicians, the staffs, the nurses, and the technicians that work and support this effort in Ukraine is very rich. So I think there are positive things in the future. What Ukraine lacks now that we have in the United States, for instance, is the materials. And Razom has done a wonderful job at trying to support that. But as you mentioned, with the excessive injuries and new medical crises, there's a demand for more. So I came to this mission for two purposes. One is, just from a humanistic point of view, I felt the country was in need, and I wanted to come to say that I stand in solidarity with the people here and the suffering. And I wanted to do something good. The second reason I came was to begin to learn what will be necessary to build Ukraine into the future in my little area of endovascular neurosurgery. And what I can see going forward is that someday peace will return to this very rich country. And there will be a need for people from abroad to support rebuilding and energizing the new Ukraine. So that's what I would like to leave with, this positive thing, that I am confident this great land will recover from this. But it will need to have friends abroad to make that happen quicker. Thank you very much. Thank you to Razom, Victor, and Michaela for hosting us here and allowing us into your hospital to work and do the good things and support your excellent efforts.
Максиме, питання буде до вас, тож які...
Mr. Maxim, the question to you, so what were the cases, maybe some that you worked with, maybe some specifics? We understand that military, the war injuries, they are different from what you are used to work with in the United States of America. So can you please share your experience in this area? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I will answer the question, and I want to thank everybody here for coming, first of all, because, again, this is, and it goes back to your question. Our specialty is a small but critical specialty, and it deals, of course, with the brain, with diseases of the brain, such as stroke, brain aneurysm, and really a lot of these diseases fall outside of the realm of trauma and war, and this is how it has historically developed. But these are very important, obviously terrible diseases, and we are honored and privileged to be able to help, as Dr. Nelson said, in that regard. But to answer your question, traditionally, our specialty has not been really equipped to deal with trauma, with blast injuries, mine injuries, mostly like shrapnel fragments, until recently. So what we've witnessed, one of the things that we have seen here particularly in Dnipro, we worked with Dr. Yuri Chernyshenko there. What we witnessed is that right now, the capabilities of our specialty in treating war trauma have really matured. They have, it's now something that can be done, that can save lives, and of course they do it under very difficult circumstances with equipment that can be much better, with tools that they need more tools. I'm sure you all know that. But what he can do, Yuri, I think right now, Dr. Chernyshenko, is by far the most experienced trauma endovascular surgeon for brain and neck and head and neck trauma in the world. And we speak, I say that because I know the people that do these things in the world, and he is by far the most experienced, and Ukraine is the most experienced country in the world. A few days ago, on Sunday, we had a webinar of sorts called Bananas, and many people connected from around the world, and we had a session to show what he does and what other people from Chicago and other places have showed their experience. I think the record of that webinar is the best record of how to deal with trauma, with war trauma. So we see a spectrum of disease related to war and not related to war, and we are privileged to be able to help with both of these.
Максиме, я знаю, що ви
Mr. Maxim, I know that you were born here in Kyiv. You're ethnically Kyivite, so what it feels like coming back to Ukraine?
Of course, it feels very emotional for me. I have family here in Ukraine. We left a while ago in 1990. But coming back, of course, is very emotional. And I think especially for me personally, I am extremely happy that I have a skill that is needed in Ukraine now, and that at this point, it's been over 30 years since our immigration, that I can give something back that I think is very meaningful. That we come, and not just myself, of course, but our whole group, Dr. Nelson, that we can bring a team. A single person is, of course, important, and it's personal motivation for me to be able to give something back, that I feel a sense of obligation. I think there's a sense of debt, and that's very personal. Like, I personally feel that I'm indebted to this land, to my ancestors, to this country, for what it has given me, and this is my chance to be able to do something to improve the lives of people here. I hope, and I want to say this, that as you all know, in medicine, in any mission, whether it's related to war or not, in any mission, for any person who is sitting here, who is up in the front, there are dozens, there are tens and tens of people, as we mentioned, in Razum and so forth, that support us. Some of them are in this audience. And so I want to give my very heartfelt thanks to everybody who has enabled this mission to happen, and all the other missions. So many people work so hard to make this happen. There are people that support, of course, with donations. There is industry partners that give us devices, that give us the tools that we need to do the kind of work that we have to do. We're dealing with some of the most difficult kinds of cases here that really, as much as they need our combined expertise, they also need the tools that we bring to be able to make this happen. So far, our cases, our operations have been very successful, thankfully, and we hope this continues. This is an ongoing project. We'll be back, and we need to be back, as Dr. Nelson mentioned. It takes decades. There's a rich tradition here of neurointervention, but it's going to take decades and decades to build more.
Максиме, скільки вдалося провести операції разом з паном Кімом тут за ці...
Mr. Maxim, how many surgeries have you managed to perform within this?
I think in different places.
Дякую вам за це. Пане
Thank you very much for your answers, Mr. Mikhailo. I would like to ask you to what extent missions like this help our doctors. To what extent is it important given the conditions of the war? Well, thank you very much for invitation in this conference. Well, maybe Mr. Dnipro may give you more detail about the technical level and the capacity, but I would like to tell you more about the way this mission was organized. We worked with Luka Tomish, who visited Ukraine in spring this year, and we met at the home of my brother that was shelled and damaged during the bombardment of Irpin. And we had such a conversation as we were going through the rooms, watching the consequences of the shellings. He said, I have a friend who is originally Kyivite, so let's invite him here. And this is how it started, from this simple conversation. And when we were talking later on with Maxim, we were showing those who are in need of surgery, those who were picked by Mr. Dnipro to. So it turned out that Maxim takes Mr. Nelson, his colleague from New York. Is it the same Mr. Nelson that I've seen back in 2007? And I've sent him the picture with Mr. Nelson. Like, so I'm trying to say how unpredictable life can be. And I want to say that this perseverance that Razom has, it's incredibly important for our country. What they do, the people who take part in all those things, they are the real patriots, both in Ukraine, United States and Canada, and I want to extend my deepest respect to them. And I want to say that Mr. Nelson is one of the leading neurosurgeons and the vascular surgeons all around the world, and Mr. Maxim has a fantastic practical skills in endovascular surgery. So we're talking about courage and decisiveness here, real resolution. Not all the specialists from all the countries have inspiration and even a desire to fulfill a mission like this. It's something that comes from the bottom of your heart and is perceived very positively by our people. It is the expression of an extensive support to our society, apart from those injured whom our colleagues were able to treat in Dnipro. Thanks to that equipment that our colleagues have brought, we can continue treating the relatives of the military who are still in the front lines, like wives or sisters or mothers of our military. Mr. Dnipro may give you more detail about our potential, what we are about to learn. But for example, today we were making a surgery on a wife of a military who is in the front lines, and there are still 2 more surgeries ahead for the mothers of our military. So once again, I want to thank Razom for Ukraine, for their courage, for their perseverance in achievement of our victory. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Mr. Dnipro, please share it with us. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's my pleasure to be invited here, and it's my pleasure to realize that there is a demand for the information about what we do. So I want to thank the company who made this happen, who bears all the financial expenses and all the logistics. I want to thank all our American friends who treat us with a lot of professionalism and humanism. Maxim has not mentioned it. I think he said like below 20, but it was more than 20 of surgeries. And this workload, even if you count it within 3 or 4 days, that's a huge workload for one surgeon. Even physically, you have to realize that our colleagues have come from across the ocean, from a different time zone, and they were performing surgeries in 4 different cities in Ukraine. So this is how I put it to them. They are as if made of steel, like Iron Man, but they are so, they are so honest and courageous in their actions, just like the real warriors. So there was a number of wonderful surgeries performed, and we don't only work with the military, just like Mr. Mikhailo says, that there is no single family in Ukraine that would not have been affected by the war. Some may have left the home. In some families, there are men in the front lines. In some families, there are warriors who perished. So, people live in this condition that tomorrow anything may happen. So yeah, the colleagues are very courageous. It's not everybody who is ready to come and to provide this amount of support. So we are deeply impressed by all those surgeries because they are performed on the highest level. And such surgeries is something that we also use, but we use them in a more of a sporadic manner because they are pretty expensive. So you understand it. I can say that the surgery performed by Mr. Nelson and Mr. Shapiro may cost up to $80,000, and they made it for free. Obviously, we provide all the support possible if anything is missing for the surgery. So it's an important step. It's a very difficult work. It's the first time that I see this in my life. We communicated with a lot of colleagues from Europe, from France and other countries, but this is the first time it's done, so to say, from the very bottom of the heart. Not only me, but all of my colleagues were present. It's real impressive. Thank you very much, Maxim, Mr. Ken. I bow in front of you. Thank you for your support of Ukraine, and for all of us, thank you very much. Dear friends, please join our conversation. If you have any questions, please let us know. Anastasia Rakota, Ukrinform. Given the fact that the mission works starting from 2016, can we say that those cases that your doctors were facing within the last year and a half were more complicated? Well, whom are you asking, Anastasia? Well, whoever can answer that.
I think that although the philanthropic effort started in 2016, the cases that we've experienced are cases that occur now, either from battlefield or from just these cities ongoing. And just as an example, and testament to the dedication of the doctors here in Ukraine, we work hard days from the morning till the evening, but then they take us to where we're going to sleep. While we're asleep, there are young doctors that are still attending to the emergencies, whether it's a soldier or whether it's your mother who is having a stroke. They still are available at around the clock. And so I've been very impressed. We had a report from Zaporizhia, a young doctor who only 6 months in the field, at night, midnight, while the rest of us sleep, is doing a stroke work and successfully recanalizing in a blocked vessel. So it's a mix of things. And I want to say that although the war has put additional strain on the system, The doctors are still doing their compassionate work for the normal diseases that they face. And they're doing it with courage and dignity. Thank you.
Друзі, чи є ще питання?
Dear friends, do we have any more questions? So, I'm having a question to Mr. Shapiro and Mr. Nelson. Are you going to come back again?
Yes, we will definitely come back. And I think, you know, I say that sometimes. I think I'm quoting Winston Churchill, who said that it takes 30 years to build a navy and it takes 300 years to build a tradition. And there's a rich tradition here, as you know. Dr. Shiglov can attest to the fact that some of the seminal, the first kinds of things that were done here in terms of treatment of diseases were done with some incredible innovation. So there's a rich tradition here. As we mentioned, there's world expertise. What needs to be done is that expertise needs to be disseminated. As you know, there's a lot of centers need high quality work, so we need equipment. I think it's important that appropriate equipment be placed in different areas, and there have to be people there. It comes down in surgery, it always goes, the critical thing is to have the personal expertise and the judgment. So that's what's important. So we want to come back to build that. And that can be built in many ways. So we are coming back. The plan is not only we come back, but we have to have more teams. So other teams have gone in our area. Multiple teams can go different places. And I think in the past couple of years, it's really become practical now to impact training and impact support, to be a co-pilot while we're overseas. So a lot of things can be done online that are now can be, like as we're doing every day. Our surgeries are recorded, broadcasted, and that has become impactful because of how the technology has evolved. So there's a lot of things that we can do and we would like to continue to do.
Кімо, щодо вас?
What about you, Mr. Kim?
One thing to what Max said, although we come here to help and to bring materials, we also learn, because many of the experienced doctors here have unique approaches to things that we observe and we take back. So the interaction enriches both cultures, the Ukrainian one and in our case, the American one, because we also learn.
Я хочу подякувати.
I would like to thank all of you. I would like to thank our American partners, our American colleagues, the doctors for helping our people, and our doctors, obviously, thank you very much for joining us today. I would like to say thank you to our doctors for what you're doing during this difficult time. Thank you, dear friends. Let's continue working for our victory. Let's thank our armed forces for this opportunity to be able to hold events like this. And glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes.